I don't think that the rules actually work against small businesses. Again, I think it's very much a perception issue. The whole process of actually submitting a tender, having to go through the process of filling in 40 or 50 pages is quite daunting to very small companies. They don't have the resources, and often they don't have the time to actually go through it. And obviously they sometimes just put it one side because they don't feel that it's something they need or they can actually do. But I don't think the rules actually prevent a company from actually going for it anymore. Yeah, I believe there are a number of new initiatives now available within Wales that really reduce the barriers. The WDA Food Directorate now has a Going for Growth programme, which is one sector of it is specifically for food sector companies to target, so that there's a lot of assistance available there. Also, Value Wales have brought out a Food for Thought document with a number of case studies within it, which highlight there is a big market out there for SMEs within the food sector within Wales. So I think there are a number of initiatives available, and the more that they create, the more success people will see with SMEs within the public sector within Wales. Well, with regards to supplier recruitment initiatives, with respect to our company, which is Frank's Ice Cream, where we deal specifically in the food sector, I've been to a number of conferences recently where there have been a number of public sector organisations and local authorities present. It's been quite disturbing, though, that the number of private SMEs at these events have been very low as a percentage. With all due respect, I mean, I've received the same information that all other companies have probably received. And I think the communication barriers need to be improved to encourage more companies like ourselves to actually attend events like this. I found them to be very worthwhile. You have a very captive audience, a very responsive audience. And I think it's a shame that a number of other SMEs within Wales don't take these opportunities to attend conferences that are aimed specifically at attracting their business. I think there are many challenges ahead for SME suppliers with regards to the new practices carried out now by procurement agencies. With regards to e-procurement, online auctions, I think it creates a number of challenges for SMEs in a number of areas. In terms of technology, a number of small companies don't have the computer systems that are capable of actually carrying out online ordering, online invoicing, etc., EDI, things like that. And also with new methods like online auctions, I think it's very, very difficult for small companies to compete in that market. There's no personal touch. You haven't got a chance to actually sell yourself to an organisation. Plus the fact that the auction is widely available on the net and is open to a number of companies from throughout Europe. So I think there are a number of challenges ahead for SMEs within this area. There are a number of issues that when you deal with public sector organisations that probably raise the costs of the supplier. I mean, the tender documents alone require a substantial amount of time to actually wade through, the majority of which is very, very difficult for companies without the resources to understand and implement fully. So there is the cost of then bringing in possibly outside resources and help to actually complete the form. Also, there's always a requirement for accounts. There's requirements for having recognised trade standards that are increasingly becoming more important. So there are a number of supplier costs involved now in having to deal with public sector organisations. I think the way the market's moving, it's no more cost than you'd need now to deal within the retail sector. But it is something for suppliers to look at. Value for money, a term I've often heard but never really understood. Within the public sector organisations, they tend to use that word quite frequently. The movement now tends to be towards providing a better quality product, within the food sector, certainly a more nutritious product. What we as a food sector company would like to see the emphasis on is more on the word quality and a little bit less on the word price. I feel that tenders now set by public sector organisations need to bring in other factors other than price and look at the outlook on the economy, sustainability and other factors that would encourage SMEs to go for their business. I think the benefits of purchasing locally depend on what sector you actually operate in. I mean, in terms of the food service sector, there is a big issue with regarding food miles. Companies like ourselves who deal in frozen foods will have to gain access into large national frozen food distribution routes many of the time. And the thing about that is that our product may have to travel 100 miles to a distribution depot to be then brought back to the actual school canteen or hospital catering department. And so there does seem a lot of logic in actually dealing with suppliers locally and getting them to supply locally. So that would reduce a lot of the food miles and everything else that goes with that. I think from an SME point of view, the supplier management technologies issue needs to be looked at quite closely. There is a lot of duplication with regards to submitting tenders. And I think that if all public sector organisations join together to have specific tenders, that they could actually not spend as much time on actually looking at every individual tender for every sector that they actually deal with. It would allow a lot more management time to be given to actually work with SMEs in actually bringing them forward to go for the business. A large amount of time is spent, I believe, by public sector organisations in the administration of tender documents. And I think there could be large cost savings if they manage their resources better and poured more of that money into dealing with management of SMEs. I think the most common reasons that I've come across of where an SME does not decide to submit a tender is the perception that they are not going to actually get the business in the end. It almost feels like a full-on exercise in as much as you have to fill in this large document that arrives on your mat. And it takes so long to actually do. It's going to go through such a long process that you don't feel that the time is well spent. And I think the main reason that SMEs don't submit enough tenders is because of the time and the amount of effort that has to be put into filling in the document. Possibly they overlook the need that it may be quite easy to actually achieve, but I think there is a perception problem with public sector tender documents. I think e-procurement offers a number of challenges. For SMEs, it can be viewed in one of two ways. The technology issue, which e-procurement brings, can be very daunting for SMEs because they don't have the expertise in-house and they don't have the necessary spend to pay for the technology required. On the other side of the coin, I think where companies have invested in technology, have systems in place, it can be very worthwhile. There can be large cost savings. You have information at your fingertips constantly, and I think it ultimately encourages communications because with new technology, you are able to do a lot of things that were not possible previously. I think SMEs within Wales are probably behind in terms of technology. I think a number of companies, in my experience, tend to be frightened by new technologies. There is also the added burden of cost, and it is expensive to actually set up new technology systems. I don't think it should be a barrier, but I think SMEs need to be encouraged more to adopt new technology practices. I'm very hopeful that the public sector will adopt an advanced procurement strategy. They seem to be at a stage where they have put organisations in place such as Value Wales, which is specifically there to encourage SMEs to deal with public sector organisations. I think that's been in place for a number of years now, and the feedback that we are getting from public sector organisations in our sector is very much that they are aware of the need to deal closely with SMEs within Wales. I think SMEs see procurement obligations as a hindrance at the start of any tender process. I mean, you have to go through a number of pre-tender evaluation, you have to send off a number of forms, and there's deadlines just to be able to actually get the tender documents sent to you. Then you have to fill in all the terms and conditions, all the restraints, the legal things. So I think at the outset, it can be seen very much as a hindrance, especially as a perceived thing for SMEs. I think that the procurement rules for the domestic market tend to be easier for SMEs to actually work with. If they happen to be for tender contracts, as I understand it, under a certain value, then you have less restraints on you. The ones that are suitable for the EU procurement rules look a lot more detailed, and there's a lot more work required to actually comply with them. So I think the fact that there are rules that are more domestic, i.e. within Wales, are much better for SMEs to deal with. Yes, I think in the experience that I've had in the tender documents that we've submitted recently, there is always the environmental sustainability issue included within it. I think that it is a very important aspect, and it's something that SMEs need to grasp. Sustainability and the environment is becoming a very important thing within the social society, and I think consumers are very much aware now of companies' environmental standards, and I think companies can be seen very positively if they view looking after the environment as an important part of marketing their products. Yes, I believe there are a number of initiatives and assistance now available to help you deal with the environmental issues that companies need to adopt. Environmental Wales are currently undertaking projects that will allow companies to actually look at how they are dealing with environmental issues within their own organisation. I think things like this are very important, and I think that the number of SMEs need to take these things on board. Yeah, I believe there are a number of initiatives and projects currently underway that are now encouraging SMEs to actually deal with public sector organisations. The Welsh Food Directorate have a Going for Growth project where companies can actually employ the services of a consultant to actually come in and actually gear them up to deal with certain sectors within the food sector, which I'm involved with. So there are projects currently underway. I think these are all going to be very, very helpful. And I think that provided the companies actually make it clear to SMEs that the assistance out there is available, then I'm sure they would be successful.